Gaze upon a grove of trees, and it appears that each one is merely a clone of the other. But look deeper, and each tree will reveal a unique color, shape, and resolve. This perspective is what makes our honorees exceptional members of our community. Each one shares their distinctive talents with our bigger grove of society in order to help us all blossom and grow. The Hompa Honganji Mission of Hawaii is pleased to introduce the 2015 Living Treasures of Hawaii. Puanani Alama Tom, Dr. Bernice Hirai, Laura Ruby, Barry Taniguchi, Haunani Apoliona, and Paulette Kahalepuna. Puanani Alama Tom believes that hula is the best prescription for a happy and healthy life.
For hula, I just hope it lives and lives and lives on forever and ever. Because I always believe hula keeps your mind working, keeps your body good, keeps your thoughts good. And this is medically speaking. I'm not a doctor, but I think hula helps us in a lot of ways. Hula is just a dance that does wonders for one's body. Let's put it that way. Your feet moves, your knees and hips bends. Your feet keeps the beat of the music. Your arms goes out, makes the gestures with your fingers and your hands. Your eyes looking up, your head turning wherever your hands are going, your eyes got to go with it. I mean, what other dance is there? And you by yourself. You don't have somebody to pull you here and pull you there, because I believe it has helped me. Even my health, it has helped me. And it also helps with people's discipline, my discipline. I can be so annoyed, and yet I can walk out and I feel rejuvenated after I dance my hula or taught my hula.
Auntie Puanani channels her passion for hula through teaching and sharing. She does this by focusing on the true meaning of life.
To make people happy, to love, and to share. This all has to do with the hula. It's all it is. Am I not right, Miley? Exactly. The hula makes you very good. And if you can remember all of that, you'll always be good. And you know what? So to be good to yourself. It makes you good to yourself. Because you can't be good to yourself and share unless you're good to yourself. And then you can share it. And you can teach others, you know, because in my work, I work with many different type of people. And all the people I've worked with all become very good people. They may have been hard, they become soft. No, you can't. Because you're dancing hula, you feel that love. And so how are you going to, you know? No, really. How you can gruff at people. Right? Think about it. I mean, you know, sometimes I can't see how people get so crazy and say unkind words. If they can sit back and put themselves into everything, they'll come out with the best. Right? You think about it. How you want to be treated, that's how you treat others.
Auntie Puanani is a lovely example of hula's beauty and grace. Dr. Bernice Hirai grew up believing in 3 core values that have served her well throughout her life.
I remember that there were 3 things about whatever our parents told us. One was shinjitsu, which is truth. And the second was sekininkan, which is responsibility. And the third was unubori. And this word means conceit or high-handedness. And I think the reason why that was part of the trio was that we were not part of the plantation system. And you know, as kids, it's easy to feel like, oh, we're above it all and everything. And I'm sure that's the reason why that was the third very important value, kachikan, that we lived by and grew up actually. And something like that all those 3 has remained with me and my siblings too. And that's so good because we're all in a world of egalitarian, even fairness. And when we were growing up, everything was so different from the plantation system, but we just didn't feel like, oh, we didn't have to do this, we didn't have to do that.
Dr. Bernice Hirai knows how important it is to dive below the surface. She focuses on creating meaningful connections.
The Japanese say, chara chara hikinasanna. That means just don't do the surface, because lots of people will do that, just chara 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 chara. That's not koto music. You have to really, and then I always tell them the energy shouldn't be over here. It should come from here, from right from the arm, right down there. But the depth is so important. That's why you don't want to be, the Japanese have a saying, sambonbozu. That means after 3 days you just flip over to something else. That's why it's important to realize what you really like, and then you give everything that you can to that. That is what the depth is, I think, And I was thinking, in my particular case, especially with music, I must have really liked it, so to, withstand all that dame desu, dame desu. And I appreciate the sensei for saying that, because if she didn't really come down on it, I might have quit, but she kind of balanced it by praising me for the few, the glissandos I did well and all that, And one thing she did say that in English is dynamics, She said, that's umaretsuki, that's you're born with it, how to do fortissimo and how to do pianissimo and moderato and all that, because something like that, I think it just comes from within, because nobody really tells you, so you just decide that this is a time when you want to do forte or fortissimo.
Dr. Hirai knows the struggle and importance of perseverance. Laura Ruby was destined to become a teacher. She has always gravitated towards helping people learn.
I found myself communicating to people no matter what it was, and that maybe that's not a good answer, but it was about sharing. It's about, I often said that teaching is not called teaching per se, but it's helping people to learn. And in doing that, you give over all of what you have, and you hope that they will take on and go from there. So that would be my hope. And then I think too, in teaching art, it wasn't just about the art per se, because there's often an overemphasis on technique and materials and everything, but mine was always about the composition, how you put something together, and then the ideas behind it. There's the three components are inextricable, but I always felt that they should be more heavily weighted towards the ideas and the composition.
Ruby believes that it is important to acknowledge the past and pay respect to those who came before us.
Because we always owe so much to the past. If you put it in other terms, the ancestors, the people who came before us. And in the present, our understanding and knowledge of what came before should, we hope, help those people to come in the future to also have a respect for the land, the community, for people in general. That's what we would hope for. And so that's the longer picture of history. I mean, some people probably can't see why we planted trees in the cemetery, because they're not going to be, big green trees for quite some years, but they will be eventually. So you have to have the foresight to think that this will be the greening of the space that is there. And so you think of history books, you think of all the many talks that we've given everywhere, to talk about the history of Mo'ili'ili, and we will be doing it too for Honoka'a, because it's a big complex of things. It's, to save the town as much as possible. But what was amazing, we found these logs that had been there, logs, like they were trees once upon a time. There was thrown away chunks of cement, and sadly, there were gravestones that were tossed to the side too. So there were two small ones that were lying under the mango tree, and so I say that I've adopted them, and I've put them next to some other gravesites. I don't know where they were in the cemetery, but they were like a 1 and 2 year old children, and as was the time, when so much high infant mortality was common or expected even. It was for some people to commemorate a 1 and 2 year old, 2 children. That was really commendable. I don't know why they weren't intact or left where they had originally been placed.
Ruby is a good example of how the journey is its own reward. Barry Taniguchi is a catalyst for economic growth on the Big Island and throughout the state. Taniguchi takes what he has learned from mentors and incorporates them into his leadership roles.
One thing that you gotta accept is management is not the same as leadership. It's two different things. Management is you manage things, you have things done, you make sure things is done and stuff like that. Leadership is with people. How do you lead them? So when you talk about leadership, I think it comes down to relationships. Again, human relationships. In the idea, a lot of times I try to do is to empathize with what is the situation. How would you feel if I'm leading you? My mom used to always tell me, amazing how, when you grow up and you think about it, how your parents and your grandparents affect you. My mom used to always tell me, you know how you felt when somebody did this to you, so you just make sure you don't do that to anybody else. And you try to put yourself into the other person's. I think that's a real requirement, being empathetic about other people to be a leader. The second is, try to think how they think, and then if it's not along your lines, try to convince them why and explain to them why, so that they can see your light and kind of follow. Come down to Buddhism and stuff like that. A lot of times, Shakyamuni Buddha and all that, they had a way of transmitting to people that there is a right way to do things, and people believed in them and started following them. That's the leader. Versus somebody that's going to manage and say, well, we got to get across there, we got to build a stuff. Talk only about management things. So a lot of it has to do with one-on-one relationship, or at least relationship between people. And when people start to respect that they see that you have some kind of trait that they understand and they can follow, then you end up becoming the leader, because they trust you and they follow you.
He has a simple yet effective approach for affecting positive change.
I keep on telling people, basically I'm really an ordinary Joe. I'm just an ordinary guy. I don't have special skills. I'm not a musician. I don't know about technology. I know enough to get by, but that's about it. I'm really an ordinary guy. But I think the difference might be the feeling of helping others, rather than everything's for me. Stuff like even thinking about if it's going to be, it's up to me. I need to be in charge of some things. The essence, if anything, is that I'm an ordinary guy trying to do ordinary things to help ordinary people. And that's basically what it is. And through that, whether it's through work or through volunteer work or things like that, that's all it is. People can help people. It's not that something unique. It's not something that we require a mathematical genius to do that kind of stuff, or scientific genius, or a real talented musician, or things like that. Just anybody can be that, having this essence that if it's going to be, it's up to me. I want to do that if you want to help.
Taniguchi feels an obligation to do better for the sake of those who came before him. Haunani Apoliona focuses on the true objectives of social work. More than physical and emotional measures, she knows it's about creating connections.
Do direct service, or you can work for a social agency or a social service agency, but you can do so much more. For me, in my lifetime, having started with Alulike and having the experience for those many years that I worked with Alulike, and then moving into the Office of Foreign Affairs. Public policy is not something that I necessarily thought about as being trained in the School of Social Work, but it all relates. And it's about people working with people, and people working on working together in a fashion that's going to be beneficial for humankind. That very simple, about making a difference and holding close to values and not only promoting those values, but also trying to live those values. So it's been it's just from the School of Social Work and my friend pulling my ear, basically, hey, you better check out that School of Social Work, and just listening, and it all started to flow from there. And this Hawaiian Learning Program really helped us.
Apoliona discovered a way to creatively express herself despite having a shy nature.
Being able to play the music, let your spirit kind of flow, and then with a challenge to consider, hey, Haunani, maybe one day you write a song for Alulike, and it all kind of came together, and it's a wondrous thing how it happens. And you're not necessarily navigating it; it just kind of flows, and so the music has been very healthy for me, and I suspect it will continue to be so. Starting here at the lychee tree and 4-string ukulele, all the way to the present time where I'm performing and playing music. But even in the performance, it's still about the space you're in and the feeling good, what inspires you, and then that capacity to share it with your colleagues, and that's what makes it great.
Apoliona uses music to communicate beyond words and boundaries. Paulette Kahalepuna knew how important each little step was in the overall big picture. Her daughter recalls how Paulette would always make a conscious effort to be an active participant in her own life.
There's so many things I've learned from my mom. Patience, tolerance, especially working with students, to be firm. Because many years ago she asked if I would help her teach workshops, not just here in the shop one-on-one, but when she had larger groups, I would go and help teach. And she'd tell me, she says, you know, you have to be firm with them. Don't be afraid to correct them, because if they make mistakes, they have to know, otherwise they won't learn it properly. And I always felt bad. I said, but Mom, they're working so hard, and even though it's wrong, they've really worked hard, so I don't want to take that work out. She says, but they work hard, but it's wrong, so take it out and do it again. And you know, so that I've learned, which has really been helpful. But just to have an open heart and not to take anything for granted. And in the last few years with Mom, couple years actually, just live life every day, because you just don't know. You just don't know.
Kahalepuna was a pursuer of excellence in all that she did. Kahalepuna knew how to balance strict precision with warm acceptance.
A time in your life where today we're so caught up in going to a store and buying our basic materials and putting things together, whether it's with thread or glue gun or staples or a sewing machine, that the value that our ancestors left us, in that we can still basically bring forth that valuable time, that each moment was precious, and the product that came from that hard work was something that was adorning someone that they had a lot of respect for. And so when people come into the shop today and order a feather lei, or a gentleman that called this morning something as a gift to his wife that would be precious and momentous because of a special occasion, that value of love and appreciation between two people, or the adornment that would be worn with a group in the performing arts, whether it was adorning their head, their leipo'o, which is their crown, to do a hula in tribute to the birds, the manu o'o or the manu iwa, or whichever bird they were paying tribute to. That value and respect to life, as small and minute as the birds were, but the value in which it came, the esteemed product, the sense of unity, putting this all together to make that particular item. And in life, you know, each thread connecting mother to child, the umbilical cord that kept us all together for 9 months, and then once severed, may have been severed in that respect, but the love that was between the children and the moms and the dads, that value, that esteemed life, as precious as a bird's life might have been, and what came from it, but the life that we share together in making these adornments could only be more valuable because of how it's going to be passed on.
Kahalepuna emphasized the cultural value of art through love and appreciation. As we gaze upon the glory of Puanani Alama Tom, Dr. Bernice Hirai, Laura Ruby, Barry Taniguchi, Haunani Apoliona, and Paulette Kahalepuna. We give gratitude for the examples they provide for all of us. Their altruistic support within our community is vital in providing a fertile foundation for continued growth and resilience. May these living treasures of Hawaii continue to flourish as they inspire the rest of us to nurture seedlings in the grove of our own destinies.